Hey, what's happening, guys? We got here Dan from Trigger Shark. Gonna do an updated video. It was kind of funny. Somebody posted on the original Gen 5 system that we did the video, the worst video ever, and he's not really wrong. Be honest with you, it was way too fast. It was one of our first videos, so certainly wanted to do another one. Hopefully this can benefit that gentleman as well as anybody else. The first video we did also wasn't with the housing, and really that's primarily most of what we sell now is the full drop-in kit with the modifications done to the housing. So we really just wanted to do an updated video, a slower video, probably clearly a more informative video for you as far as the Gen 5 system. So again, we got a clear firearm here. We're going to pull the trigger and bring the slide back, take the takedown lever to release the slide. So we've got the slide up. I've got this Armor's block here. We sell them on our website for like 10 bucks. It's seriously, it's the easiest thing in the world. We used to use, back in the day, we used to use like roller tapes and be able to use that to drop the pins on. And these things are great if you got like a light on it. But otherwise, these Armor blocks really are very, very helpful. You're going to take out the top pin. This comes out like butter on this one because it's been done 1,000 times, but always all that friction is usually going to come out of that the slide lock or the slide stop lever here. So sometimes you got to wiggle that and push down at the same time. That'll come, and then you got your housing pin. So you got both pins are going to come out like such. And I always use my same punch to leverage and pull up that locking block a little easier. I'm going to pull up my slide stop, set that aside right there. And then I'm just going to pop out the trigger system. So what's really easy about this system is it literally comes all in one. Really the only thing that we really do prefer people doing is every one of our systems come with a C5 Loctite product. It's an anti-seize. It's a fantastic product that goes great on the connector and the trigger bar, that contact spot. So obviously I made that look a little too easy here as I pulled that off. But ultimately, as you can see, your trigger bar is underneath the spring, the hood in there. Hopefully you can see that. It's underneath there. The cruciform tucks underneath there. So to get it off, you're simply going to lift that down, and usually you just turn it out like such. So you got to kind of pivot that out. You also do have friction here because we have that set screw, as you can see, that's driven through the back of the housing. So it makes it just a little bit more tight in that space. There's a reason why that's in there. Obviously, we'll talk about that in a minute, but nevertheless, you got to pull your trigger bar off to obviously apply this Loctite product, and you can use a toothpick, use whatever. In this case, we'll just use a little pick here. We're just going to grab a big dollop of it. We're going to put it right in the face of the connector. We use this product on all of our systems. Really just recommend it. I just put a big chunk, lathered up on that connector. That's exactly where that contact's going to be made for the trigger bar on the connector itself. So again, you can just throw a good amount on there. It's not going to hurt anything. And then to get it back on, this is it's not tricky, but it can be a little tighter than normal. So you're going to come in at an angle. As you can see here, I'm trying to aim this front end of the cruciform to get underneath that clasp in there, that hood. And then I'm going to simply pull it forward like such. So it's underneath the clasp. And then obviously your cruciform's in front of the set screw in there. The set screw is, so really the process of what we're trying to accomplish, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Actually, before we talk about the process, in the event that we're talking about just the Gen 5 combat system, that's going to come with just the connector and the bar. In order to remove the connector from your existing system, this will come with just that system. On the back of the housing, there's a cutout space that's perfect for a punch, and you literally will just use that punch to pop that out. So in the event that we're talking about the Gen 5 system without the housing, it's just that simple. You're going to come in from the back of the housing to remove that connector on your existing connector, your OEM connector, and then you'll slide this one in like such. So again, the drop-in system, we always recommend using that Loctite. It's just a great product. So you're going to basically put the trigger bar back in like such. So again, you want to make sure it's underneath that clasp, and it's going to sit. Sometimes it sits a little goofy, but that's okay. As long as it's underneath that clasp, you should feel that tension on the spring. and we've got that Loctite product on, and basically it's ready, set, go. So we calibrate all these systems with the set screw exactly the way we want it to be. You could overextend that even more, but again, I say overextend because any further you go, if you go too far, you're going to restrict the trigger pull in general. It's just not going to break. It doesn't have the space to actually fall off the drop shelf. So this set screw is really multi-purpose. It's to get rid of your over travel, so that after the break of the trigger, that movement after it breaks, where the trigger's falling farther back into the frame. It gets that so it stops immediately, which then in turn is going to put that trigger back in reset quicker, or back in battery quicker by making that reset quicker. So you've got pre-travel, which is the distance from the start to the break. We're getting rid of some of that by the set screw and the modifications we're doing to that. And then the over travel and the reset are being done through the modifications that we do in the housing here. So, but again, your system's going to come as such. We've got our frame. The install is extremely simple. You're just going to drop that in the frame like that. You're going to take your slide stop. You're going to slide that around the trigger shoe. Make sure that that screw, hopefully you can see that. I don't know if you can. I think you can. Make sure that the spring right in the front of that slide stop finds the pocket that's inside the frame here. So that'll be inside there if it's in that pocket. Then you're gonna put the locking block in, slides in like such. I always go right to left on all my pins, so pop out left to right, right to left in. This one's gonna go in pretty easy. If you need to, you might need to move the slide stop a little bit. That's where you'll get caught a little bit in there. But ultimately you move that to get your trigger pin in, your housing pin. A little extra Loctite here. And that's it. That install is gonna be pretty simple. And now as you can see, your starting point versus where our trigger sets. So the pre-travel is definitely a lot less. There's still a little movement there because you don't want it to be on the wall. I mean, you can put it further back if you want. That's the front set screw. By moving that clockwise, if you want to reduce even more pre-travel, you certainly have the ability to do that. But we calibrate them all the same, and no over travel in that trigger pull. So it's going to have a quick reset. So very little movement on the pre-travel, very profound wall and break, and then back into battery as quickly as that. Like I said, the front, the set screw in the face of the shoe ultimately is going to dictate the pre-travel. We calibrate them all a certain way to make sure that safety tab is going to still engage. And then everything in the housing is all pre-calibrated as well for basically no over travel and a quick reset. They all come with hex keys, so if you want to make modifications, you can. If you have questions on them, certainly reach out. We're here to help. But that's the long and short. Hopefully this video is a little bit more, a little slower and a little bit more informative as far as the trigger pull. As far as weight is concerned, we should be pulling here normally at about 5 to 5.5, and with this system, we're going to be pulling at 3 1/4 there. 3.5. 3.5. So pretty close to 3.5 every time. And yeah, just makes it a heck of a lot lighter, heck of a lot less pre-travel, and then certainly no over travel and a quick reset for that trigger. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, triggershark.com. Thank you all.